Hello from where you're watching us from. My name is Abulasia Imbukwa and we are coming to you live from the Convent International Hotel, Lavington, Nairobi, your number one conferencing partner. Today we are here to have a conversation on sex education and we are tagging it Parenting Perspectives, Navigating Sex Education Conversations. This is a thought-provoking conversation aimed at exploring the challenges, strategies, and the importance of sex education in parenting. With me today are two gentlemen who will help me dissect.
I'm a journalist and I'm a consultant in media, communications and public relations. I'm glad for this invite.
My name is Paul. I am a parent and a business person. Thank you.
So to just kick us off, tell us your understanding of sex education.
Well, my understanding of sex education is the kind of mentorship that parents give to children around sex. It is a very serious topic because it has direct consequences in our lives, and so it has to start from the upbringing, which is at home. Basically, that's how I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very insightful. And you, Paul?
Yeah, sex education, I think the parents approaching and coming to deal with that whole situation as the children are growing up, to help them to know how to adjust and how to best apply that naturally given whatever ability.
Yeah. So from both of you, from both of your definitions, one thing is childhood. So I would like to understand how your teenagehood was with your parents on matters sex education. Did you ever have that experience of sex education with your parents?
Where I am now, I still fail to understand why it was a feared topic in our homes back then. Because I discovered that it is something that we ought to have known. But for my case, my parents were more of proverbial people around this issue. And that still continues. Right now, you will hear me as a child being told, don't go near girls. When others are going near girls. You see, the opposite is really contradicting. So you fail to understand. So you go to an extent of trying to discover this issue by yourself. And I think that is where something goes wrong. I have seen particular cases when we were young. We didn't understand. Some of us would go. We never had internet as it is now. So we could not even Google. We would wait for those special talks in schools to understand this issue around sex.
The scary.
And of course, because it is something that is enticing you, you always want to know what is happening. So that is how we came to discover about this. It was not a very good conversation between me and my parents, and I don't blame them because they were just pursuing some level of cultural understanding or cultural values. So they would just say it in a very funny language, not a direct language as we should speak about it. And that is how I had to go out and get to understand this topic by myself.
And before I hear from Paul, I kind of share the same background with you, because for me I remember just running away from boys, and I don't remember like having that conversation with my mother or my father. But I knew boys are bad, I should not go close to boys. And in school, I just remember watching the scary HIV videos of people who are so emaciated and maybe they have boils on their bodies. So that is the closest I came to sex education, like from school, but from home I don't remember. And your experience, Paul?
Well, my experience is that my parents were largely mute on that topic, so I have no recollection of ever like having a sit down or maybe them mentioning it as a by the way or in any case. But I think the only reinforced notion back then was abstinence. That's the only thing that was reinforced. That's why the notion of like girls are bad or boys are bad and stuff, and you shouldn't mingle or be seen close to them. I think insinuating that the emphasis was that people should abstain from that. So that was the only, but what they failed to do was to like fortify us with knowledge as it relates how, we were developing and what we should expect and how supposed to deal with the changes that were coming our way. So that's where it was totally mute, and they really didn't intervene in that area.
Yeah. Chris, you mentioned something that you had to discover things on your own. How was that for you?
It was a very bad experience, truthfully. I remember at one time, while in high school, I had not even had a serious interaction with a girl.
Yeah.
Serious, I mean serious, trying to create a vibe around the whole conversation. Yeah. So it was very bad. I remember a lady rejecting me, just the general greetings, and now having a conversation. It was difficult because we were supposed not to be close to girls all along. So it was actually very difficult because while trying to discover this, I came to know everything about sex. But I am just lucky that I had the right information. So in my own imagination, I'm thinking about the children who got the wrong information, basically because their parents could not tell them all this. And this is what happens. When I don't hear it from home, I will go and look for the information. Whatever I get is not a guarantee that it's good.
How did you get that right information?
During our school days, we used to have talks.
Yeah.
From time to time, our teachers used to invite speakers, and majorly speakers were the ones who were handling the issue of sex education.
Yeah.
They were actually doing it in an open way, and it used to be weird because you even wonder when these speakers are telling me this, and at home they are not telling me what is not happening, what is not connecting. So that is the question that we kept asking ourselves. But for me, I chose to pursue what was right as per what we were being taught. One, we understood the truth about sex.
Yeah.
We understood that at some point there's a right time for it, there are repercussions to it,
yes,
and there are choices that when you make, they can either make or break you. So that is what guided me around the issue of ladies. But of course it affected me in one way because I never got into a relationship as early as my peers. So I used to look at myself as inferior.
Yeah.
But thanks be to God, I chose that path and I just walked. So, yeah.
And Paul, how was you discovering it for yourself?
Well, I guess you can maybe call it a school of hard knocks, like we weren't really taught by the parents. But thank God that the school did intervene. And of course, there were those lessons, but then there's that personal experience which now comes on later on in life. And I think, I think I would judge it as not really like not a Titanic situation. Yeah, somehow I managed to wobble through and survived.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, you mentioned something about feeling inferior for not maybe being in the same level with your friends in terms of practicing sex. So how did you navigate through that? And did you ever get to a point of feeling like, because of the inferiority complex, maybe feeling like I have to experience this?
It was a difficult moment.
Yep.
There are two things that I understood in life. One, that I have to focus on what helps me.
Yes.
At that point, I didn't see any way that sex would help me. So this is at a personal level because I don't have full information. But I was not seeing any way that it would help me. So one, it was not top of my priorities. So that was a good one. The second thing is, it would just disturb me. Because when we would go out in school, there are some of my colleagues, they would go out, they would get girlfriends. The same day, you are not getting a girlfriend. You know, those small issues really bother you. You wonder, am I not normal?
Okay.
And how are these girls looking at me? And now some people would make the wrong decisions around that time. Because you see, in primary, in high school, sex does not help anyone. It doesn't, truthfully. But now because of the curiosity and because of getting the wrong guidance and information, some would fall into it, some would definitely impregnate others, some would get pregnant, some would get STDs and STIs. But now when you come back at home, the situation that we used to see, the parent would just blame the child. No parent would take liability for
it. Or like the way he's alluding, like the way his friends were acting out. Then that begs, because what I know is that back then in the day, is that predominantly abstinence was highly encouraged, like especially like if you're that school age and stuff. So well, and also it depends like with the family background, the cultural background, but largely in our context, I think our culture really reinforces more of abstinence rather than maybe engaging it in it from an early whatever age, school age. Yeah, so I think that's the kind of background that I came from, predominantly. Yeah, abstinence was the kind of cause the consequences and the likes. Yeah. So yeah. So that's.
And how did that work out for you?
Well, I guess I was more of a compliant. Like I just followed the set system, as it were, as if it was a cast.
The programming.
Yeah, yeah. So programmed, and so the software really worked. Yes, so to say.
What do you know now that you really wish that your parents would have educated you about in regards to sex education?
I wish my parents would have told me everything at that time. Maybe I would have not had the curiosity that I had. Maybe I would have understood that it was okay to interact with girls, but not sexually. Because probably it would have changed me along this system of education and the times that I was a teenager. Maybe it would have changed the way I interacted with people. It would have probably taught me how to get friends, network, without having any informed boundaries in my mind. So that is one area. The other thing, it would inform me exactly why sex is good and bad. Because I don't think anybody would say sex is bad. Because it is there. But why is it good and why is it bad? When is it good and when is it bad? Those questions were supposed to be very, very clear to me. So I never had the right answers, and I wish I could get the right answers. The other thing that I wish now is parents just talk about this thing openly. Because truthfully, I have seen children from age of 6. They know everything more than adults. They know anything and everything around sex. So even if parents hide now, they will just hide in their cocoon. But the children, they know everything. They know almost everything. But then, you cannot control what they know. So you better start by telling them what they need to know. So that even as they discover themselves and as they discover the world, they know that I got this information from my parent, but this is what I'm getting. So they are able to choose the right path.
And you, Paul, now that you are a parent, you are a father, based on your experience in teenagehood, what are you doing better now to change that?
I think the best approach is to be open about the whole subject and to treat it in a way that, to treat it as a reality. So, and also like create a relationship whereby like the kids feel comfortable to discuss something like that. And I think it comes with the overall approach to parenting whereby like it's not just as it relates to this subject, but it's as it relates to the whole parenting approach. You make it like whereby you're friendly, you are open, and they feel that they can trust you.
Yes.
They can be vulnerable. They can share with you their intimate parts of their lives and whatever they're going through. So I think once you have that base and that mold and that approach whereby you are more of a friend to them, not just autocratic, you are engaging with each other.
Autocratic?
Yeah, autocratic is whereby you're just dictating to them.
Yes.
And they're just there to listen to your orders. But then you can have a more democratic way of approaching it, like you're talking and discussing. Of course, at the back of your mind what outcome you desire, but you make it appear like they own the decision, they own the process, Yeah, you give them that impression that we are in it together, that this my parent wants the best for me. And once they own the whole process, they're going to, more likely than not, they're going to make the best decisions. But when you're just dictating them, they're most likely they're going to resent you for it.
And rebel.
Yeah, and rebel, and you don't want that outcome.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want that.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
From your conversations, one thing is coming out, the value of a parent in their child's life. Paul has given us his perspective as a father to 3 sons.
Yes.
And you, the upcoming daddy. what things do you feel you'll do differently in raising your daughter or your son?
Well, I would tell my children that I love them, so that men and women out there will not go and confuse them with this love word. Because for us, when we were in high school, if somebody would tell you I love you, that would be the best thing. You would not even concentrate in class. You lose focus completely. And this will definitely affect them.
And then
so,
if we get to GLO,
yes,
Lopez.
They start a lot of lovey-dovey issues.
Yes.
It is good that they know they are loved. Let our children know that they can be loved and they are loved.
Yeah.
If it even if it is possible, kiss your children. They will know a kiss is not a big deal. So that when a boy or a girl goes and kisses them, it is just something that they know either they are not supposed to do at that time, but it is normal. It is a sign of love. But then you can also direct them that they are not supposed to be kissed by the other people, and you tell them why. Why? At that time. You are the parent. So you can be able to tell them. So that's one thing that I would be able to change. The other thing is that I would make sex education part of general bringing of my children.
Yeah.
Because it really determines a lot of things that will happen in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would treat it as serious as I would pay school fees.
Yes.
Or as I would go for that parents meeting in school. That is how serious I would treat the whole issue. Because whether you tell them or not, they will get to know the information. So I better arrest the situation, let them know the right issues, but also give them an opportunity to choose how they would like their life to be once they grow up.
Yeah.
Mine is just to make sure that they are informed, they are educated, and they are not misguided.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Something has come up as when you're talking, the boundaries, you know, and we live in a society, the African society is more patriarchal, and you find like the girl doesn't have so much power on themselves, and the guys, I don't know whether it's out of context. Am I saying that something that happens?
Well, it's true. It's absolutely true. In the traditional sense of it.
In that, yes. So you realize that if you don't teach our kids boundaries, we shall always have girls hacking boys, boys hacking girls. So Paul, as a father to boys, what steps are you taking to teach your son's boundaries? And then I'll come to you, Chris. How do you learn boundaries?
Well, I think at every stage where the child is at, there is the method you use and the approach you use to teach them. So say when the child is young, you have to teach them, say, about their boundaries, and so that they are not taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to, ask them probing questions, and mention to them things that they should be aware about, like private parts shouldn't be touched. But then once they grow up, they need to know things about responsibility now, because now they're changing and their hormones are changing and everything. They need to know about boundaries and responsibility. But I think the best approach is, well, you may not have, as a parent, you don't have full control over the whole situation. But I think to take a more conservative tone to it, like I think as a parent, the best thing is to tell the child everything that they need to know with the kind of tone and language that they would understand. Of course, you may not be explicit as maybe when you're talking to your peers, but then there's a language, age-appropriate language. Then I think the best approach would be ultimately to reinforce the notion of abstinence until marriage, inculcate that idea in them. Let them know that that's what is expected of them from you, because they view you as an authority figure, Yeah. Then now they can now use that as a baseline to engage in that. It may not be the outcome ultimately, but once they have that knowledge at the back of their mind, it will be like a guiding software as they navigate those rocky terrains, Yeah.
Okay. How did you learn our boundaries as a man?
When I was told don't go close to the gas, that was boundary enough for me. You can be sure that was a good statement. There is something that I'm not supposed to do at this time. Of course, I used to see people, they have girlfriends. Yeah, and when we are young, you would meet information that you are not supposed to know. Things happen. But then that statement gave me an understanding that there are things that I'm not supposed to do. So I would ask myself every other time, is this what I'm supposed to do? So however much that statement looks authoritative, it brought some sense of responsibility to me.
Yes.
The only problem is that it was not informative. Why? The why was not answered. It was just, this is it. You need to do it. And we are living in right now, if you compare the days we were young and now, things are very different, because children will find their way on YouTube.
Yeah.
They will see all these crazy things that celebrities do. And celebrities apparently they no longer have boundaries online. So they show anything and everything. So I think that also helped us, because we didn't have that space to understand. So for me, that was a boundary enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just to understand our parents, we have the societal norms and the taboos. And how can we help parents overcome personal discomfort and societal taboos to initiate open and age-appropriate discussions about sex education with their children?
I think they need to rise to the occasion, as Chris is mentioning. Our culture has changed. Like, information is circulating in such a fast pace that you can hardly keep up with it. And our children are exposed to gadgets and, all over, even billboards and stuff. So I think the best approach would be not to like hide under the rug anymore. I think you need to rise to the occasion, tell them that sex is a reality, but then educate them on how to best apply that God-given gift. So this notion of saying sex is bad, I think that's it's an era that is bygone.
Yeah.
So now we need to have a different approach. Tell them it's good, but then it should be within the bounds, within the limits of, say, marriage. That traditional sense of it. Yeah, I think that would be the best approach. Yeah, you just come open with it, but then you steer them in the right channel and path.
Up to this point, I cannot even start watching a program like The Then Bold and Beautiful with my father. That boundary has been kept to date. So from my end, we are good. Because my father does not have young children who he will have to take care of, except the nieces, the grandchildren who have their parents. So somehow there's a balance there. But for young parents, it's just good to be clear. Be clear with your children about all these issues. Don't allow them to discover issues outside, because you also need to gain their trust. They know that you are their friend. They can open up to you. If they are seduced by young boys, they're able to come and tell you, there's this boy who told me this and this and this. And you're able to get that opportunity to advise them. You become their friend so that you can be able to get the most or the best opportunity to give them advice and to guide them. Because guidance is also a serious issue that is now happening. Right now, there's a very big conversation, probably in Africa, whether teens should use contraceptives. Such issues. As a parent, if you're able to give guidance at home, you're able to help these children make informed decisions. Because even if they are in high school, secondary school, they will go to the university. You will not be there.
Yes.
They will go to the college. You will not be there.
Yes.
And they will do what they know is right.
Yeah.
Some would succumb to peer pressure.
Yeah.
So all this will depend on how we are brought up as children. So maybe I would advise parents to really take that extra step, give the right information, don't let anything to chance, but also have open sessions where you are able to talk to your children about sex and all these other issues surrounding sex education. Yeah.
Thank you. You have stated very, very pregnant points. And when you mentioned the bold and the beautiful, I was laughing because that was the same case with me, my siblings and our dad, our parents, let me say that. The bold will start, they carry the television to the bedroom. You're not supposed to watch people kissing. Or maybe if you're watching in the sitting room and then people start kissing, he will change the channel so that you'll not be able to watch that.
And what impression did that legacy or impression did that leave?
It felt like kissing is something shameful that should not be done openly, because why would he change the channel or carry the television to the bedroom so that he can go watch it with his wife in the bedroom? but we still go to the window so that we, yeah, the curiosity, what are they watching in the bedroom? So as much as they could carry, we still, our curiosity would lead us to the window outside.
You found ways of circumventing those
yes.
barriers.
Yeah. Yeah, so like in the context of our parents, like even the programs, so how can parents create effective strategies of having these conversations in safe spaces that are non-judgmental? Because there's that shame attached to it. Because why would he change the channel? Because people are kissing. So which strategies should be applied?
Yeah, I think it's the whole culture of parenting approach. Because you see, like, I think the way things were done back then is that parents never really engaged. They just sort of dictated stuff, and you had to follow them whether you liked it or not.
Yeah.
But I think we are reaching a moment whereby it's like that is no longer applicable because kids are exposed to so much, and for you to keep up, you have now to sort of be an interactive approach.
Yeah.
Whereby now you are doing it together, you're more of a team, and it's not just you even take the effort of explaining why. You know, back then you just don't do this, you know, and you had to do it. But nowadays, I don't think that model and that approach can be successful anymore. Because if you don't give the answers that your inquisitive child is seeking, they are going to look for other avenues to try and fill that gap. Because, you know, nothing exists in a vacuum. So, you know, and this you cannot be approaching it from a point of like, now, okay, today we are discussing sex. It has to be a norm. Yeah, it has to be the way you parent, and then you just slot it within maybe a different discussion. You just have a detour or a rabbit trail and stuff with a normal tone with it. Because the more you make it more official, you're going to become very uncomfortable, or maybe you're going to make your child very uncomfortable. It has
because you cannot achieve it in a day. Creating that open space takes time. And you mentioned that you got the right book. So what role can schools and educators play in supporting parents in sex education efforts, and how can parents collaborate with educational institutions for comprehensive approaches?
When I was young, I would hear some teachers complain that parents have absconded their duties and have left them to take care of their children completely because they were not teaching children about sex, about how they're supposed to behave. So this is a collective responsibility, but majorly lies on the parents. They should be the initiating factor in this whole conversation. It shouldn't be something that is coming from the teacher, because the teacher is just with the child when they are there. But when they come home, yours, the teacher is busy, they will be paid. Whether the child misbehaves or not, the teachers will be paid. So the parental initiative needs to come from parents, but also they need to collaborate with teachers so that if a parent notices something weird that is happening to children, they are able to tell. If a teacher also notices something around this sex education that's happening in school, they're able to communicate so that they can be able to see interventions that can be able to work for children. You see, this kind of collaboration can be able to help a wider pool of children, so that they're able to understand what they're supposed to do. There's so many things that happen in our schools. I think we know their drugs still leads to a weird understanding of or a weird implementation of the sex education that children get. There are issues of gays and lesbians. It still happens. That is where it begins, because that is still part of the sex education. Right now, I think it's also important for parents to explain to children who are gays. Why are they gays? What does this parent think about this situation? So that the children really understand. Because right now, a child can simply be influenced to be gay or lesbian. Not because they want it, but because it's peer pressure. They don't know where to go. So they pick what comes first. It's still part of the sex education. It's very wide, and the collaboration between parents and teachers need to be better and open. Yeah.
You have highlighted something very important, which is in line with inclusion, the LGBTQ. So, what are your views when it comes to inclusion and LGBTQ? Because that is something that is with us today, and we cannot run away from it.
Well, I know that's like a public discussion, and everybody has got their views, and I would desist to sort of like speak on behalf of someone else. But personally, as you can tell, I have 3 kids.
Yep.
That would tell you about my values. And what my heartfelt desire for, say, my kids. So, like the values I would want to pass down to them would be more of the traditional type, more of a traditional tone. And as what Chris was talking about, he was talking about like how schools and teachers, they can also maybe contribute towards that. Like, you see, the thing is that schools and teachers, like that's apart from parents, that's the other level of authority that kids tend to like get introduced to, whereby like there are goals to be achieved, there are like rewards to be received, consequences, and that's how life is. Like that's how life is structured. There are authorities and there are goals and there are limits to what we can operate. So teachers are very important when it comes to educating kids and bringing this whole discussion to them, because you know at that moment they are with their peers, they are going through all those things. And you know sometimes some kids come from dysfunctional families. Not only that, you find that parents have got different experiences and they have been equipped differently. But you find because teachers now are trained on those things, how to deal with human psychology and stuff, they're able to deal with it from a more pointed kind of approach. And actually, some of the reasons why most of us have wound up well is because of intervention of schools. Because as we alluded earlier, our parents were not very well equipped.
They were aloof.
But the reason why, not the weren't aloof. They weren't aloof, it's only that the cultural norms, the way they had been prepared, it didn't include that in the syllabus. It was mute, deliberately. The only reinforcement, the only emphasis was on abstinence and stuff. But then you see, the reason why now we have to rise to the occasion is because our culture has changed. Information is traveling so fast. Back then, the only thing you knew was in your village girls and everything. That's the only. Nowadays, I mean, it's to your face, it's all over. So the parents have to do more because like the challenge is higher, the challenge is bigger. And then now we just have to intervene, whether we like it or not.
Very, very important. And a few weeks ago or a month ago, I did a survey on Facebook, and I was asking parents what is blocking them from having conversations with their kids, and some of them raised concerns about the kids. They have fear that if they talk to their kids about sex, their kids will start will start practicing it. So that is one of the misconceptions. So what are some other common misconceptions or myths about sex education that parents should be aware of, and how can they address these misconceptions with accurate information? And you who is in the online space, maybe you have come across some, so you think to mention that.
I would say children are majorly influenced by what they see, what they hear. So as parents should be able to just choose what is the lesser evil, because there's nothing good around this topic these days, particularly for children. I don't see any reason why a child would be sexually active. They are not looking for children, they are not married, they are not planning to get married. So that is the basic conversation in my belief. So, number one, as a parent, you should invoke some level of friendship, where your children can be able to open up to you what they hear people say and what they think about what people say. So you're able to know where they stand. I mean, what they're thinking about and what they're likely to decide in their life. And when you pick it from that point, you are now able to direct them. When we have a bridge or a gap between the child-parent relationship, you will never know what they know. You will never know that and get to know what they are experiencing. It's also good as a parent to go and you'd see everything that people say. You'd see people taking things casually. Whether it is really in their life or just to please people in order to get online traffic, that is not the issue. The issue is the influence they are giving to people, particularly children who get access to these digital media platforms. So that is an issue. As a parent, you can try getting into these digital platforms, see what people embrace abortion. They would embrace it because they would see somewhere some small link online that we offer abortion. I may never see that link, probably as a parent. They don't know how safe or how unsafe abortion is. So even as a parent, you should see, you watch news, you see this issue happen to particular children, and then you're able to make sure that your children are aware of the true position, so that when they make decisions, they are not influenced by what they see, but what they know. They're making a decision from an informed perspective. So that is what I would encourage parents. Okay. And that is from a personal experience as a child and now as an adult.
Very well. And Paul, what misconceptions have you heard about sex education, and how can parents counter them with accurate information?
Yeah, I think one misconception that parents largely have is that they underestimate the amount of influence they have over their children. They think maybe if I talk to this child, maybe they won't listen, they won't pay attention, or on the contrary, they're going to do the wrong thing about it. But like even us, with our experiences, like the things that our parents told us, especially in our formative years, strangely enough, we've forgotten everything else, but we remember what our parents told us. That shows how much influence a parent can have. So if that power and influence can be used and channeled rightly, it would have very, very good results. So the parents, they need to discover that how much influence they have, how much power they hold sway over their kids, and use that and really rise to the occasion. Because most parents are busy doing so many things, providing for the kids, but not really taking care of children in this very crucial area of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe the other thing that I would add is a misconception around young people being adults.
Yeah,
I think most of us have depended on our parents for a very long time, and we even still seek advice from them. So I think a child remains a child. There are things that we can never know. We always need guidance from our parents. Even if I'm 21 years old, I'm 24 or 26, I am likely to make wrong decisions around these issues of sex. I am likely to interact with the wrong people. I am likely to contract these STDs and STIs because I am not making the right decisions. So I need guidance, and that is why we stress on the importance of the relationship between parents and children. They should be able to share. They should be able to share, so that all these misconceptions, they can be able to get informed opinion from parents. And parents, if they get anything that they are not comfortable discussing, they can always seek help from counselors who can now be able to assist. Because now this is more or less extending the parental duties to a level that can be able to help children even further. I don't think there is any harm if a parent invites a counselor to talk to their children. It's a very noble initiative. I can actually decide to take them out and go and swim. But I can also decide to bring a counselor to them to talk about this, because counselors have a way of conveying these messages. So that these misconceptions that they meet online, like the one I've just mentioned, can be so clear in their mind and they can be able to make the right decision.
Yeah, you've mentioned something very crucial about parents understanding that it's okay not to have all the information and you can seek help. Could you perhaps be knowing any resources apart from the counselor that you have mentioned? Could you be perhaps knowing other resources where parents can go and get the information on knowledge on and skills on sex education? Maybe websites, community organizations that parents can seek help from?
Well, there are so many avenues. The first and the closest avenue are friends, probably parents speaking to fellow parents, because we have different situations. Maybe a particular parent discovers that their children are sexually active. How did they handle the issue? How did they intervene? You will definitely get some information around that issue. There are religious leaders who are in a very good position to interact with the children because they come from a religious perspective, but they're also friendly. This is something that they have studied and they know how to communicate. Of course, they are counselors, but they are also specialists who deal with particular issues like sex education. They are particular specialists for sex education. They are particular specialists for contraceptives. All these topics surrounding sex education, they are specialists around them. So these are people that can be able to assist parents in particular cases where they have challenges. It's good to open up. Nobody is all knowing. No man is an island. So it's just good to seek help when we need help.
Anything to add on that, Paul?
I think he's done a very good job. We exhausted it.
Yeah. So we've had technology, and it's something that is here with us. We're in the technological age, and
like there's, software is such that you can have a parental check whereby you're able to see in the background wherever your kid is going. They are more or less preoccupied with the thrill of the moment, Then the consequences, the chips may fall where they may later on to them, as far as they're concerned.
That's a difficult one.
You've been in the technology space.
From my experience, I think parents should use incidences that happen in modern times to explain some of these issues to children. Yeah, they really need to use. For me, a child should know what a contraceptive is, because they will actually be taught in school. Sometimes they may not be able to capture the whole concept in full. So when they come home, you also need to add something so that they are able to understand these issues. LGBTQ is a hot issue right now. They just need to know what it is and why they need to make a particular decision according to your understanding. Because some of us are just like, we made decisions around what we believed in, not what we had. So it is a free world. Yes, children, even young adults, they need guidance a lot on this issue. Sex education also shapes us in issues that involve marriage. We young people, we expect to get married. How do we maneuver around this issue? It's a very wide topic, and that is why some even go to around premarital counseling, I guess. Still, it will cover a good portion around sex education, which many people don't know. So and by the way, the people premarital classes are basically not meant for people who are going to get married. It's just to understand what happens. You need to understand what happens because you are going there. So all people who are anticipating that they will get married or that they are getting married, it is just good to go and get this knowledge, because somehow you're able to assist someone with this particular knowledge. Parents have, I believe many parents have gone through this, but they have children who will likely go through the same. So with this knowledge, you're able to impart some understanding, some decision-making skills around the issues. Of course, we would differ on so many issues around this topic, but the best thing is let people be informed so that they can be able to make the right decisions that will help them in life.
Very important.
Yeah.
They be informed so that they can make the right decisions. And we both understand that the reason why a parent will be overprotective of their child, especially their daughter, is because of the issue of early pregnancy. But we understand we have other risks like STIs, HIV. So how can parents balance promoting healthy sexual behaviors and preventing risks such as early pregnancy, sexual transmitted infections, and online dangers?
Well, I think from the African context, I think it's largely, I think the way they dealt with that was largely, I think, I may sound like a broken record, but abstinence was, I think I started the age of sounding like a broken record, because when you have a child under your roof,
yeah,
it would be such a, what do I say, like, it would be way out of order for them then to be practicing that under your roof with your full knowledge Because now, as a parent, how do I start engaging my child on how to best and safest to have sex? Like Adam, if that would be a misnomer, that would be. I mean, you can't go to that territory,
But isn't it true that young people are having sex? Teenagers.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. But then you see, the moment you have that conversation with your child, you are legitimizing it. First of all, really? For that age, it is illegitimate in a way, because that child, if ever they are to be pregnant, they are not ready for that. So that's the first point that makes it illegitimate. You get? Psychologically, emotionally, they are not prepared. Physiologically, their bodies are not prepared. They have not developed enough. Like when you have cases of, say, 13-year-old girls, 12-year-old girls getting pregnant. That not only does it delay their education, but even their bodies, physiologically, they are not fully prepared. They may get pregnant, but they are not fully developed, and can bring health hazard and stuff. So that makes it illegitimate in that regard. Yeah, at that age. So as a parent, you see, now once you have such a discussion, you're legitimizing it because you're an authority figure. So I think according to my point of view, the only approach you can have is to tell them, okay, this is sex, it exists, blah, blah, blah. But until this time, I don't think it's okay for you to have it. And if you do this and this, now you list the negatives. Yeah, there is no positive way of looking at it. There are only bad consequences that you can inform your child that X, Y, Z will happen and it's all bad.
But you agree it's important they know.
The conversation is a necessity, absolute necessity. But you cannot legitimize it. You cannot tell your child, okay, you may get pregnant, so you need to take contraceptives. Now, if you go to that, if you go there, you are inches away from losing your child.
What happens
because
when they are sexually active? What happens?
Well, if they are already sexually active, now, life is a matter of choices and consequences. Okay? That's why as a parent, when they are very young, they have timeouts. You spank them from time to time. If they are a little grown, there are things you can withdraw from. Every parent knows the buttons that you can press and get your child, to ensure that you get your child's attention. You see, even if they're teenagers, they're still, they're dependent on you for everything. The roof over their heads, the clothes they wear, everything. You can withdraw that and still get the desired attention, Yeah, so I think the traditional viewpoint is still valid. We may have moved on to the modern era, but there are some things that are cast in stone and you just can't change them.
All along, I have been having a feeling that these issues around sex education are majorly stressed on girl child.
Yeah.
Not the boy child. But the boy child, they are the ones who share sweet words to these young ladies.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, end up convincing them around these issues. So I think there should be a societal change around protecting the boy child. Because even in cases where we have teenage pregnancies, truthfully, you never see the person who impregnated this guy. It will be a story shared at night when it's so dark.
Yeah.
But the girl is pregnant. The parents and probably some family members know the person, the young boy or whoever, who impregnated this guy. They will not talk about it. So this technically is not giving the girl child and the boy child the equal attention around this sex education. So boys are getting a feeling that this other one did it and went scot-free. Okay, so my parent is saying this is not right, but my friend did it and he went. My other friend has a girlfriend. My father is locking our sisters inside. You remember when we were young, girls were protected, very protected. Yes. But boys are moving around. Yeah. Definitely they will get time and steal these girls. So I think it should be a balanced approach around talking about sex education. Because that is where we, as a society, we're probably losing it. For me, as a boy, I would see my father was very strict. My father was very strict with my sisters. However, I was just lucky to pursue the right path. What if I chose the wrong path? What if I was the one impregnating the young girl? Who would be blamed in this situation? Yeah. So it needs to be a balanced effort because all sex education is for all. for young people, teenagers, adults, young adults. It's for all. So there needs to be a balance so that the society grows as a whole. Yeah.
Okay, very fat points. And very important, like the sometimes we focus more on the girl and the boy child is left out, and these issues affect both of them.
Actually, I heard either is a politician or a celebrity talk about how schools would organize talks for girls, and then they will be given sanitary towels and all these goodies. But the boys are out playing. The same boys are the ones who will come and convince these girls that what you are told there is not as sweet as what we know. I mean, it is zero work, absolutely. The boys need to be on the discussion tables. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide. They just need to know what is happening so that they can be able to make the right decision.
We truly need to bring them on the table.
Yeah.
And it's quite amazing that we're having this conversation with the boy child. Boy child.
I'm a boy child.
Boy child. So and I hope other boy childs will borrow and live from this conversation. And which brings me to the next question. We understand sometimes that it might be difficult for a parent to approach their child and start having this conversation with them. Like there's someone who had shared a story of him seeing the son now hugging girls. It's a woman, and now she gets another understanding that this boy of mine could now be starting to have that curiosity, or what is it called? Interest in girls. So she's triggered. I'm supposed to talk to this boy of mine, but I don't know how to go about it. So what are the potential benefits and challenges of involving other trusted adults, such as extended family, members of family members or community leaders in sex education discussions?
Paul is in a better position.
I think that would play in very well. Say if you find yourself in a situation where you're a single parent, say you're a mom or a dad, a single dad, then if say, because sex education, according to my opinion, I think it works best when you're talking to a child who of the same gender. So if it's a boy, it would be more appropriate if your dad spoke to him. I know, like, you find that naturally, say, kids are drawn to the parent of the opposite gender. So if it's boys, they are naturally drawn to their mothers. And if it's and vice versa.
Yes.
But then you find that when it comes to this topic, I think it would be more appropriate if the parent of the same gender now talks to the child about the same. But then if you find yourself in a situation whereby you're a single parent, then you might need to have people, say relatives or people close to you, then who can come in and fill that gap per se.
What are the benefits of that?
I think the benefit is that it rings loud and clear, because you see, if you repeat something long enough, it tends to be convincing that much. Yeah, unlike when you just hearing it from just a single channel. Yeah. So I think for the child now it becomes, it's more reinforced per se. Yeah, because now they're hearing it from different angles, different perspectives, and then kids are they're influenced a lot by whatever. They influence a lot by whatever the peers and the influence. So when they hear it from different angles, they're able now to become that much more convinced. Yeah.
On a separate juncture from what Paul has mentioned, the families where they have children, they have teenagers, they have young adults, and then they have adults. So you'll find that the young adults and the adults are giving the children the bad example around this sex education, because they will show them that we are having girlfriends, we are going out, we are sleeping out, and what are we doing when we are sleeping out? Definitely the result they will come and see. If one of them gets pregnant or something, or if they get photos or explicit content in their phones. So I believe this is a societal issue. Sex education should no longer be treated as a parental issue again. It should be a societal issue. Even the young adults and adults need to know that they have a responsibility to give the right example and information to the younger ones, so that they actually understand what is the right thing to do.
And I think also like, okay, when it comes to parenting and everything, I mean like there should be a balance. Because you find like there's some style of parenting whereby they just want to be so friendly to their kids, and it's like there are no consequences, you know. And then the kids grow up with an imbalanced view of life whereby there are no consequences, you know. So I think kids need to have a clear understanding of authority. Like, you know, like in our generation, like our parents would inspire the fear of God in our hearts. So that's why sometimes we didn't err, because we knew repercussions would come in force, you know. But clear understanding of consequences. Yeah, because you see, you cannot control the whole society. Yeah. People will do as they please. The boy would then, your child will have to do the right thing because they know there are clear consequences. So not only do they, even in this little small world, they know that there are limits that I cannot, there are bounds that I cannot just go over. Yeah.
And sometimes you as the father, you might get the awareness of maybe starting to have these conversations with your children, and their mom has a dissenting opinion. So how can you navigate those differences of opinion with your partners or family members regarding sex education approaches and content?
Well, I think the dissenting opinions, I think the best approach would be you logically argue out your opinion, not just try to enforce it through sheer force, you know. Just bring them on board, try to convince them as much as possible. Then at some point, if the kids are present, they'll be able to hear logic. You know, if the best way to convince a person is through logic, not just wanting to do it just because you said it. Yeah. So
to impose.
Yeah, to impose your will on them. Who is reasonable enough, unless they are beyond the point of reason, they will be able to hear you out, as it were. Yeah. As long as they are reasonable. Then if they're not, if they're beyond the point of reason, well.
For me as a child, I will find it weird to get different signals from my parents.
Yeah.
And that would definitely force me to take sides or avoid the two sides altogether. And that is a problem in itself.
Yeah.
So I think parents should just avoid showing differences openly, particularly on issues that involve children, because we look up to them. So when it's something that they can be able to differ on, then it means that is a very serious issue that I should also see third and fourth opinion and probably make a decision on my own.
Yeah.
It's actually a difficult one for parents, but I think it's just how are you planning to impart this knowledge on them? It has to be like a syllabus.
Yes.
You know that my children at this point, they will need this information, and there is a way I need to share it. Sometimes even invoke their good emotions by giving them gifts, and then now you share that difficult conversation that that maybe people are uneasy to share. So it's just having a plan around it. I wouldn't encourage allowing children to explore at any point, because they should only explore once they have information, and then they're able to make decisions by themselves. Yeah. So that is an area that I don't know how parents can limit that. It is quite difficult. But once they explore, whatever the parent says is rarely taken seriously.
Yeah. From you?
Yeah, I think, I think kids should be encouraged to know that there are stages in life, and you grow with every whatever passing moment. You're just growing into and graduating from one stage to the other. So you really need, as you are discussing with children, you really need to tell them first of all where they are and what is expected of them in that stage of their lives. And then you need also to tell them about where they are going. Now, I think sex, as it relates to kids, so they need to learn, they need to have, at the back of their minds, they need to know that this is not something that they should be engaging at present. As much as possible, that can be, it may not happen as always it does, but it's always good to use that approach, so that now you create clear terms of engagement. Yeah, if this happens, then then it's it's best defined like that.
That is an area that is probably having a lot of challenges and bringing a lot of challenges in families. It all starts with us. For those of us who know the right things to do, we can always try. It does not harm to go to a school and talk about them, about some of these issues. Because in one way or the other, it will affect them. It does not harm to link this particular topic of sex education around how it can affect or how it can impact their lives. So it begins with us. Even as parents do their part, we also have to join the pool so that we make the world a better place to be.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think the whole notion of it all is like the chaos of war, people reacting to a situation, the fog of war and everything. I really don't, as much as it is, we would rather that the future be a conference in our own home.
If you join me